What's up guys? Welcome back to part 4 of the build. Today we're going to be building the custom sleeved cable extensions. My name is Dan and you're watching Tekmod. I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the tools that we're going to be using to get this done. First, you got your good quality wire cutters. You're going to need to cut the wire to length, so these come in handy. Next is the strippers. I like using this style because it's a consistent strip between each of the wires. Next up are the crimpers. These are really good quality crimpers just to make sure all your crimps are nice and perfect. Next is just a straight edge, just for cutting things straight. I got a basic X-Acto blade, some decent scissors, and finally a lighter. You can use a mini torch here, but it's easier to control the heat when using a lighter. Alright, I got some 18 gauge wire here, so the first thing I'm going to do is start cutting this wire to length. Since we're building a GPU power cable today, we're going to cut two different lengths. One's going to be 12 inches, the other is going to be 11.5. Now when you're cutting this wire, you want to make sure each wire is as close to the same length as you can. Alright guys, so I got 4 wires here that are 12 inches in length. I'm going to go ahead and strip them next. Next, I'm going to go ahead and install the connectors. Alright guys, there's probably a million different ways to put these connectors on. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do it and you can choose if it's best for you. The first thing I'm going to do is put the connector inside the jaw. Now I'm going to click it down either 2 or 3 times. 2 usually seems to work best, 3 makes it a little bit harder to get the wire in. You want to clamp it down just enough to see the pins bend. Now when you're putting the wire in, orientation is going to be very important, so pay close attention to that. Since the clip of the GPU is on the top, I want to orient this so that the wire curves down. On the 24 pin it's going to be opposite, so I'll flip this wire around and do it opposite. You want to push the wire all the way into the pin and then clamp all the way down. There you go. Give it a little tug just to make sure that it's on there. And repeat. Alright, we got all the connectors on, so now it's time to go ahead and start sleeving. The color combination I'm going to do on this is going to be gray, black, blue, gray for the left side, and then gray, blue, black, and gray for the right side. So for each connector I'm going to need 2 gray, 1 blue, and 1 black. The first thing you're going to want to do is cut off the end of this just to make sure it doesn't fray. Start with a clean end, and then you just want to barely melt the plastic. Next, you're going to want to cut the sleeve to length. You want to start right in the middle of this spot here. And when you're measuring this, make sure you're not pulling too hard and stretching the sleeve. Finish right in the middle on the other end. And then melt the end again. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cut the heat shrink to about 3/4 of an inch. Now, because I'm doing heat shrinkless, I'm not all that worried about the angle or the length of the heat shrink. If you are going to keep the heat shrink on, that might be something you want to consider. Next, go ahead and feed the cable through the sleeve. Again, you want the end of the sleeve to be just over the end of the connector. When you put your heat shrink on, make sure it's lined up right at the end of the sleeve. Then you're going to go ahead and melt it. Then repeat the process on the other side. Now sometimes you might need to stretch the sleeve a little bit just to get it over the end of the connector. In that case, what you want to do is hold the sleeve in the opposite end and then lightly stretch it until it's over the end of the connector. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove the heat shrink. So you can see all you're really doing is melting the end of the sleeve and then compressing it with the heat shrink. Next, I'm going to go ahead and install the connector and the cable combs. Now for the shorter wire, just repeat the process. This can be an extremely time-consuming process. but in my opinion it's probably one of the best things that you can do to customize your PC. If this is your first time building your own custom cables, try not to get too frustrated. The end result is always going to be worth it. There's plenty of builders out there that will customize your own cables for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and drop a like. Be sure to subscribe to the page, and we'll see you next time.